Hi everybody, welcome to All Games New and Old. I'm David Rodriguez, and today we're going to be reviewing Argent the Consortium. This was designed by Trade Chambers and was published in 2015 from Level 99 Games. Now, this game takes place in a fantasy world in a school of magic, so in order to talk about this, we got one of our fantasy experts to come in and talk to us, so let me send you over to him.
Here I am in this lousy tavern again, talking to my least favorite content creator. Anyway, in Argent the Consortium, the Chancellor of the Argent School of Magic has left, and someone has to take his place. It could be you if you're lucky, but first you have to send out your mage assistants to get various things done, and you have to find out who's even voting to find out who the Chancellor will be. If you can impress enough of them, you will be Chancellor of the Argent School of Magic. Though, I don't know why anyone would want to go to a magic school.
Oh, do dwarves not have magic schools?
No. Our schools are about less flashy crafts. I learned about clay. I became quite an expert on pottery and vases. I even make good coin selling them when I'm not adventuring.
Doesn't your big bushy beard get in the way?
Aye, but finding a dwarven hair baked into your pottery is good luck.
Alright, that's neat and all, but technically doesn't that make you a Harry Potter?
A what?
You know what, never mind, let's just get our gameplay overview. Alright, so Argent the Consortium is a 2 to 5 player worker placement game that says it takes about 30 minutes per player. We found that it took longer than that, but that could just be analysis paralysis on our part. I'm not going to go over every rule, and I'm definitely going to skip the vast majority of the setup because you can follow along with that in the rulebook just fine. It's really easy to follow. But one of the important things is at the beginning of the game, you're going to pick a mage from a certain school of magic, and depending on which mage you pick, they're going to start with a specific spell to them. They'll also start with 2 mage workers of their particular color. Now, every different mage worker color has a different ability that you'll lay out the cards on the table that'll show you exactly what they each do. Once everyone has their character, you are then going to do a snake draft to get the rest of your mages from the various colors in the supply. If you're playing a 2-player, you'll end up with 7 mages at the end of that. If you're playing at a higher player count than that, you'll end up with 5. You have to think carefully about which ones you pick because, as I mentioned, they all have their own power. So depending on what they can do, it might tailor how you play and might alter some of the decisions you'll make. Now, one of the really important parts of this game is the consortium board. Now, at the beginning of the game, 2 of the members of the 12-member consortium will be flipped over for all to see, and that'll tell you what sort of things that they will be voting on to see if they want to throw the support behind you or one of your competitors. All the others will be face down, but at the beginning of the game, each player gets to put one of their marks on one of those consortium cards and secretly look at it to see what that particular consortium member wants. This will help give you a goal to strive for the end of the game. Each turn, you're going to have a fast action that you can choose to take or not, and a main action. Fast action things are all kind of marked with a certain symbol. The purple mages that you might get from the supply at the beginning, they can be placed as a fast action. And then as your regular action, you can place a mage, use some items, use a spell, or use the ability of one of your supporters. Now, you can have different tiles anytime you play because they're all put out randomly with the exception of a few that will always be there. But when you're putting your characters out, you're going to place them on a spot that's available to them. You're not going to take the reward from that right away. That'll be done at the end of the round. But these could be things that might give you gold, might give you mana, might let you research a spell, might give you intelligence or wisdom so you can research a spell, might allow you to buy a card, could give you influence points, which is a track that goes along the consortium board, or it could give you a mark, which you could then use to look at one of the consortium members. So usually on a tile, each space will have a different sort of level of reward, so it could benefit you to get there first in some cases. Also, all of them, I believe all of them, will have a spot at the top that has a special symbol that is a merit badge symbol. When you get to certain spots on the influence board, you will gain a merit badge, and then if you want to get a reward from one of those spots that has that symbol on it, you will then have to flip it over to get that reward once the time comes in the game where you're getting the rewards. And you can't get that merit badge again, but those are usually pretty powerful rewards. And so as you're going, you are going to be doing all those things to try to reach the goals that the consortium members want, or at least the ones you think might be out there, and trying to stop your opponent from doing the same. Certain things like the red mages or some spells can actually wound another player's worker, sending them to the infirmary. Now, if they go to the infirmary, they usually do get some kind of a bonus, but they won't be able to get the thing from the space they'd originally put that worker on. So it can be useful to get something that you really want and to make sure that your opponent doesn't. There's a lot of mean things to do in this game for sure. The way each round ends is there will be a number of clock tower cards, each one giving an immediate bonus, and the number of them is just going to depend on how many players you have. And so as your main action, you can choose to take one of those and get the immediate reward. If at any point someone takes the very last of the clock tower cards, that will immediately end the round, and you'll go from there to receiving your rewards. So you will go room by room, starting at the top left and moving down to the very bottom right, and collect your rewards one at a time, starting with the person in the topmost space and moving down. Now, there are shadow spaces, because some things will let you basically take a special space next to a regular space in the shadow realm, which gives you the same benefit. So if you are shadowing another mage in a space, the other mage will get to take their reward first, and then the shadowing mage will take theirs. And as you take your rewards, you'll take the mages off the board so you know which ones you've already done. It's at this point that if you put your mage on certain spots, you may buy things or gain your marks or what have you. Then, once all that is done, you are going to get rid of all the support cards and the vault cards and spell cards and refill out those marketplaces with all new cards. So you'll never know what's coming in the next round, and you'll go on to the next round of the game. There's 5 rounds in the game, unless you want to play the epic game, which is 6 rounds. Once you've done the last round, you are then going to figure out how you scored. So you are going to reveal all the consortium members, and one at a time you're going to go through and see who won that member's support. So if it, for instance, says that this person is looking for the member with the most gold, you will hand that card with that consortium member to the person who has the most gold. If there is a tie, then you see who has the most influence on the tracker, which will break the tie. And if you're tied there, then the person whose marker is, I believe it's the one on the bottom, will break the tie instead. So you'll do that until all consortium members have been given out, and then you see who has the most, and whoever has the most wins. Again, if there's a tie, it goes to the influence tracker, just as I previously mentioned. And that's the very basic overview of how you play Argent the Consortium. There's a lot to this game. I already said a lot more than I usually want to in this segment, but hopefully you have a little bit of an idea of how it plays. Alright, so now that you kind of have an idea how the game is played, let's talk about what we think about this game, starting with art and components.
So I really enjoy the artwork in this game. It's a very anime inspired. It's not quite anime art style, but you can tell it's very inspired by anime.
Yeah, and it's driving me nuts because I know it reminds me of something specific, but I don't remember what it was, and even if I did, it's probably like some weird, obscure thing that, that probably won't help the audience anyway, but we'll be showing you pictures of it so you get an idea of it.
It kind of reminds me of some of the newer Japanese RPG games.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I do like it, though. I think it's pretty cool. A lot of different character designs, which is pretty neat. I don't know about you. I felt they did pretty good about being inclusive as far as the characters go. A lot of different apparent ethnicities and lots of men and women. So I mean I think they nailed it on that.
Yeah, I think they did a good job of that. I don't remember any women being really over sexualized. Some of them are probably a little over the top, but it's not so much so that I would be concerned having it at a table at a convention or anything like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like they're clearly meant to be attractive women, and sometimes they're wearing kind of snug clothing, but it's not super cleavagey or anything like that, and they're not in, I didn't notice anyway any really ridiculous poses or anything like that. They're just pretty much
any.
Oh yeah, that's supposed to be an attractive woman, and you could see, or whatever, you can kind of see that. That's all I thought about that. Did you think that, because there's a lot of iconography in this game, did you feel like everything was clearly marked on, boards and cards and everything like that? Do you have any issue with those?
I think some of it can get a little bit muddled, I think. But I think there's enough writing along with the iconography that it's okay. My biggest issue was the coloring of the different spells or classes of spells. Some of them were very close together in color, so it was kind of hard, especially on the spell cards, it was hard for me to tell which spell class the spell fell into, just looking at it. Yeah,
because they're all, you got red, green, black, purple, blue, gray, What? No, I suppose it's black. Anyway, but they're all kind of like muted.
Yeah.
Like they're not really bright, which I think if they'd have gone a more bright route would have probably helped differentiate them a little better.
Yeah, like the blue and the gray really kind of blended together, and the red, and I feel like there's a brown or something.
Yeah,
There's two colors that there's two colors that when they're not side by side, it's kind of hard to tell them apart. So
yeah, and like each of those colors represents a different school of magic, and there's a symbol for the school, but again, like it's only like slightly darker than the thing that it's on, so it's not like that even really stands out. Like I almost am never looking for the symbol. I'm just looking at the color, and the colors are kind of close. I didn't have a massive issue with it, but I could see where people might. I have no idea how this goes for a colorblind person, to be honest with you. Not sure, and maybe with that symbol it's fine, but it is kind of a thing.
yeah. What did you think of the models?
Okay, I like them. I think they're pretty cool. There's like one for each different school of magic, and then there's also like a set that are for like they're not affiliated with the school of magic. They're good. We did have a problem where one of the purple mage assistants came kind of broken off at the ankles. And that's not shocking because the ankles are super thin on those. And it's broken again since I fixed it, but it re-broke. But it was up against our 3-year-old, so that's not really a fault of the game. But I at no point would it shock me if another one of those broke. Because, I mean, it's cool. It's a cool design on the model for sure. But that particular one has such scrawny little ankles.
Yeah, well, and even the ones that don't have the scrawny ankles, it seems like a lot of them are kind of bending a little bit, so it seems like it's a little softer plastic than what I typically see, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. But that being said, I still think they're cool. The little, I'm sure there's a name for the little base clip-on things that you use to differentiate color. Those seem to go on pretty well, I think. I haven't had any problems with them anyway. The mana crystals are pretty cool. They're pretty big chunky things. They're kind of like a weird. They're not a random shape, but they're kind of this. Kind of random shape.
They're kind of like lava rocks.
Yeah. And so, like, if you cluster your pile of them together, it's hard to kind of glance and see because they're kind of like almost like interlocking in a way that makes it hard to tell how many you have. Which is, you could just count them. It's not that big a deal. But there is that. But they're cool. The coins are just plastic coins. It would have been cool if they were metal coins, but also the cost would have been like, so, that's fine. It is kind of odd that they're all called gold, but the one that count as one are actually like silver looking pieces, and the 5s are gold. This is a nitpick. It's a real nitpick. But I'm saying it is kind of weird. The cards are a nice linen finish, although I feel like they're not very thick or something. Like I felt when I was shuffling them, like they seem kind of like more bendy than I'm used to.
Yeah, as a caveat, you don't bridge your cards when you shuffle, so...
I'm terrible at shuffling in general, but...
But yeah, so like if you're like him and you don't bridge your cards when you shuffle, they're definitely going to get a bend to them pretty quickly. When I was kind of resetting, I bent them back, and when I shuffled, they seemed to be okay. So, but I think over time, they'll definitely have some bends to them. And then I know, was it promotional cards that we got that was a different finish, or?
Yeah, so I got the another game from Level 99, Imperial Spells in Steam. I backed it on Kickstarter, GameFound, whatever it was. And it came with a little pack of promotional cards. This is super minor because you might not ever have those, but those ones don't have the lemon finish. They're more just like smooth, glossy. It's not a big deal, but it is kind of like a funny thing that they didn't keep that consistent throughout, but whatever. You might never have to come across that. It's not a problem out of the box. It's just from those promotional things I thought it was strange, but it's fine. Other than that, I think, all the cardboard pieces seem really good. Like, the tiles are all nice. I'm forgetting the name, the board for the people that vote at the end. Good, solid board. I don't have any... I'm like looking over at the board because it's over here set up. I really don't have any major complaints about it. I think... I kind of wish maybe they thought about those narrow ankles in the design of that one. If they would have just put like a cloak behind her that went to the floor, like that would have alleviated a lot of issues.
Yeah, the models are really the only part that I find is a little bit subpar, but even then, the detail is still really good on them. I just wish they would have used a plastic that was a little bit heavier duty.
Yeah, I do too. I think it would have made the cost, because there's a lot of them. I don't remember how many, but like 30 or around there. It would have made the cost probably a lot nastier, I bet, to get it. So, not shocked, but... All right, so for theme, this theme is the thing that really made me want to get this game. That, and it's by Level 99, who I think usually does a great job. Well, that and the art, which is also cool, because, again, Level 99 does a good... There's a lot of things that made me want this game. But the whole, magic school thing, that really... I think it's a cool theme. It really draws me in. I don't know if anything else has ever made that idea popular.
No, never been done. Definitely no other board game has done it. Definitely not one that's on our shelf and we've talked about a few times.
Yeah. There's that, yeah. I literally was not even thinking about that one. I was talking about the other franchise that shall not be named. So there's that. Anyway, but I like that theme. It's a cool theme, right? And this one's kind of neat because, it's like you do have some control over students, but really you're supposed to be like someone who's trying to become like the dean or it's not the principal. I don't even think it's the dean. I don't remember what word they use, but the leader of the school, right? You're trying to do that, and you're trying to win over the I'm going to call them judges, the council members, whatever they are. And it's kind of cool because you don't know who all is even voting on you. They're a secret too, but as the game goes on, you get your marks, you can start to slowly figure out who's going to be voting on you and what they're looking for, and you can start adjusting your strategies accordingly. I really like that. So in that part of the game, the theme I think is very strong. The part that at least it didn't do it for me because like each child has its set of locations is basically a spot in the school. So there's catacombs and like I think there's a library, all that other stuff. So at no point am I thinking like, hi, I'm sending my red wizard to the library to whatever. Like I'm not thinking about those locations as what they probably are. Like it's really just like this space gives me this thing and that space gives me that thing. Did that work for you, or am I because usually I'm like the movie in my head guy, right? But like that part, I'm not even like thinking about it that way at all.
Yeah, no, the theme is like there's definitely there's a theme there, and you do see it kind of with the council and also with like the end turn with the bell tower, but as far as actually like while you're playing the game, the theme doesn't really seem to follow through.
Yeah, and I will say this too. This school's insane. It's not. So when I was trying to learn this, I believe the channel was 3-Minute Board Games, and he had the best way to describe this at the end. He called it Harry Potter and the Game of Thrones. Perfect, because this is the magic school and all that. It's all very nice, except for you are like attacking each other and sending each other to the infirmary, and I'm gonna cast this spell and like blow up people in 4 rooms, and like, wow, this is a savage place. Yeah. Who would want to go to school here? This is insane. You're just a normal student trying to mind your business in the library, and somebody wants to become the leader, so he like sends a fireball through the library. What the heck is going on in this place? It's insane.
It's normal for that world.
It has to be, right? It's a fantasy world, so I guess maybe like, hey man, anything goes. Like you kill
everybody knows that there's an open spot for the dean, and so all the same people left, and it's just the greatest people left.
They're like, oh yeah, it's going down. We gotta get out of town. This is not gonna be good. I'm not sure. I don't know. It is crazy. That's not a complaint. It just is what it is. It's crazy. So I wouldn't go to the school. No, no.
So this is a game that's 2 to 5 it's listed as 2 to 5 players. They have special rules for when you're playing 2 players. I feel like this is a game that's really designed to be at least a 3-player game, though. It definitely has to take that element to it, and which doesn't play out super well at a 2-player game, especially for us, because like neither one of us wants to be like super ruthless against the other person. If there's more players to take out stuff on, then we would be doing some more spells and whatnot against other players. But as it is, like a 2-player game, a lot of the spells just seem like it would just kind of devastate the other player and make it really hard for it to be a balanced game.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. Is like there's things where it's like I can see a bigger game. You're gonna knock a bunch of people out from a lot of different players, but like. I had one spell, so each spell is like sort of 3 tiers that you can study and learn, and the first one was like, you wound a mage of your opponent, and that's not that bad, because, I mean, when you get wounded, it's not that bad. You go to the infirmary, and you get something like gold or mana or whatever, but still, okay. And then the next step was like, you can wound 2 mages in 2 adjacent rooms. Alright, a little rough, but you could have a reason to do it. But then the highest one was to wound 4 mages in 4 adjacent rooms. Okay. If I do that to her, I'm sleeping out back. No, but like I would feel terrible because even at the 2-player game where you have 7 mages instead of like 5 that you have at the higher player count, that's still like basically blowing apart over half of her plan for that turn. Like, and I know strategically that's a good idea, but it feels too dang jerky to me. Like, I just anytime like I tried to knock one of your mages out, it's because I needed that spot, and like that was how I could get it. You know, that was usually my strategy. And to do something like that to where it's like, well, you know, I only really need to try to get that spot, but you know, here's 3 more wounds to, you know, mess up your day. That's really rough in a 2-player game. It just is. The extra mages don't make that much nicer.
Yeah. Well, especially because you also have those extra mages too. It's not like, oh, well, I'll knock out 3 mages because you have 2 extra mages, so.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the game. I think you were playing the character that could heal someone out of there. But even still, I'm like, well, you're not going to heal that many people out of there. Yeah. It's still, like, totally ruining, like, one of the 5 rounds in the game. Like, that's a big deal. That's, like, messing up a fifth of your whole game.
And, yeah, as long as you have the mana, you could do it in the next round, too. Like,
yeah. And theoretically, because there's some spells or items that will let you unexhaust a card, theoretically, I could have done it multiple times if I wanted to. I mean, it would have been a high mana cost, I'm sure. I don't remember what it was. But in theory, you could do that if you had the ability. And man, would I just not be able to sleep with myself. I couldn't look myself in the mirror anymore. So yeah, I think this is going to vary for you, right? Like if you play with someone, like one person regularly, and you are used to just like no holds barred, you smash each other to bits, and whenever you play, cool. Like it's going to be fine. Like the game, I agree that this is going to shine at higher player counts, but I think it works. It works fine at the lower player count. Yeah. It's just that some of those mean things are even more extra mean because you're not spreading it around. You're just doing all of it to one person.
Yeah.
And ooh, that could be rough. So know that about it. It's just how it's going to be. And we talked at the end of our last game because I was trying to figure out if there's a way that you could make the agreement with someone to play it nice. And it's like, well, you probably have to get rid of the red mages because there'd be no point to them. But if you do that, then you have to get rid of the green mages who can like basically counter what the red mages do because there's no point to them anymore. And then there's all these spells that you would, you know, not want to have in there. But if you do that, then and you have the counselor that wants those kind of spells, like you'd have to completely rebalance the whole game, and you just couldn't. Like you have to do it. Like it's got its mean stuff, and you're gonna find yourself using them at some point. You just kind of have to. So that's what that is. Did you feel like because when you start, you pick like a character mage, and they all start with an individual spell. Did you think that they all seemed like pretty reasonable choices? Like they looked like they had some balance to them. I don't know, what were your thoughts on that?
I think it's hard to say because I feel like I didn't like at a 2-player count. I didn't really use the starting mages spells very often. Like one was one that I had. They were good about healing if I took a wound, but then we weren't really wounding each other very much. The other one, I could kind of move people around the board a little bit, which again is like a 2-player count. I didn't really need to do that very much. Where I think if we were playing at a higher player count and the spaces were a lot more reserved and harder to get, then I would be using my spells a lot more.
Yeah, I could see that. I kind of used mine because I had one character that would, like, his little spell like didn't cost anything to cast it. It just gave you 2 mana. Oh, and then the other one was I could use one I made just to shadow one of hers because there's a shadow space next to each space. So you can essentially be at the same spot in the board and you're in this shadow dimension. It's complicated. But anyway, but that was kind of cool, and I did use that. But yeah, some of them are not going to be as useful in the lower player counts, I don't think. And a lot of them, which, I mean, this isn't necessarily a big deal, because when you think about it, it's just a spell you start with, I guess, but, like, you had the one that could move people, and then I got that reaction spell that was like, if anyone tries to move you or take or knock you out, whatever it was, you can wound one of their mages back. So suddenly it's like, it was a high cost for you to do that to me anymore. Yeah. Unless I had no mana, but I always did.
Yeah.
So, which is okay, because you get other spells. I mean, it's not like the end of the world. You don't have to use that one spell, but there is that. So yeah, at the beginning of the game, after you pick your main character, you get two assistant mages of that same color, and then you start drafting mages back and forth. So if you're playing a 2-player game, you end up with a total of 7 mages. If you're playing at a higher count, you end up with a total of 5. And each of those color mages has their own unique ability. What did you think about that as far as, picking your workers essentially and their special abilities at the beginning? Did you like that system?
I liked it. I think for a 2-player count, since you have 7 mages, like you're gonna have, it's really easy to get one of each mage and even have like two of them. And so you can have a really balanced team. At a higher player count, though, you're only gonna be able to pick 3 mages besides the 2 that you start off with. So you're not going to be able to pick one of each ones. So you're going to be missing out on at least one color mage. And so I think that will be a harder choice and take a little bit longer to do your picks at the beginning of the game. Plus, you're going to, at the really higher counts, you're going to run out of colors to pick from. And so then you're going to have to choose some of those mages that don't have any special abilities.
That's true. But like I said, I really like that system. I think it's kind of fun because it can really vary up the tools you have at your disposal, depending on which ones you pick. And they're all really useful. Like, there's none of them other than the powerless ones that you won't even bother with until you're at a higher player count. But all of them have abilities that, like, oh, this could come in handy. So it's like you kind of want to take them all. So it's like a tough choice just to get started almost. Because you have to pick what you think is going to be useful for the whole game for the most part, unless you have the location that lets you swap it. That's a whole other thing. So.
How do you feel we only play at 2-player count, but knowing what changes happen in the game at higher player counts, how do you feel it scales?
Oh, I think it'd be fine, because like the number of tiles that come out is different. You'll include some tiles in there that you don't at the 2-player count. When you get to the 4 and 5 player count, you have more of the bell tower cards, which those are like a regular action. You take the card, it gives you a benefit, and then whenever the last one is taken, that ends the round. So you want to get all your stuff done, But so with that bell tower thing, I mean that adds a little bit of scaling thing to it, and then the number of cards that come out in the various like in the vault area and the spells and whatnot, that number doesn't change, especially with the supporters. Those don't get replaced as you get them, so it's like a lot of things become a bit tighter.
Yeah,
which I think makes you. I think you'd have to be a little more fighty and vicious. So I think it will change the feel of the game, but I think it will. I think it'll work just fine. It'll just be a little bit different and probably more chaotic, but like in a fun way. I think so. I would have loved to play as higher player counts. It's just kind of tough because it takes a certain kind of player to like want to do this kind of game, I think.
Speaking of the bell tower, how do you think of that as a end turn?
I think it's actually pretty neat. Some people might not like it if they keep getting screwed over by it, but like essentially, you can end up having a lot of possible actions to use. Like, because in addition to your mages, you have items or supporters or whatnot that you can use as an action too. But as people start deciding they've done what they need to do and they start getting those bell tower cards, like, you may not be able to do all your stuff, so you have to pick and choose, which is really interesting. And if there's someone who feels like they're ahead enough, they may actually decide to just like start ending rounds or quickly if they wanted to. I mean, I don't know how easy it is to get that far ahead, but if someone really feels like they might have something in the bag, they might choose to do that, and that means you have to start reacting to that situation. It's just another strategy you can add on top of the rest of the strategies in the game. So I think it's a really interesting and cool system. I like that, and you kind of have to have it in a game where you could essentially keep adding actions to what you could possibly do. You can't just be like, okay, well, I know you've done your 6 actions, but I still have 7 more. So like, because that would be insane. There has to be a way to like end the round. Yeah, and I think it works well for that.
Yeah, well, like, I think since we are similar type players, I think it works well.
Okay.
My concern with it is that if you're playing with like metagamer or someone, my concern is that having that player that decides that they just want to end the round, and so they're just going to take those cards, and so you don't actually get to really do much.
Yeah.
But I think that's just something to keep in mind, and when you're picking who you play this game with.
Yeah, exactly. Don't play with that person. That's the thing. You got to know what kind of game it is and what kind of game you want to get out of it.
Yeah.
Pick your players accordingly. It's going to be important on this one, I think.
I'm not a big fan of the take that component of games, and so I really feel like this game, like you can play it as 2 players, and it's fun at 2-player count. I feel like this game really needs to have at least 3 players. Knowing the people that we typically play with, there's really probably only a couple other people that I would want to play as with that 3rd or 4th player, and so I don't know how often this will be able to come out onto the table, especially since it can be a longer playing game. So for me, I'm going to give it a 7, because I do really enjoy the game, but since I'm not a fan of the take that component in general in games, it's not as harsh in this game, but in general I don't like the take that in games, and so finding the right people to play this with, and also keeping in mind the time, how long the game takes, it just knocks down a point or 2 for me. But I do think that this is a really fun game.
Yeah, everything you said, especially at first there with like the not liking the take that thing, I'm kind of in the same boat. I mean, I'm okay with a little bit of it, but this one is like you there's quite a bit.
It can get brutal really fast.
Yeah, for a worker placement game, there probably are some out there, but I've never seen one, or I don't even know of one that has this much. Just it's kind of crazy, and in general, I don't like that. For some reason, I really like this game a lot. Like, I don't know, part of it might just be the theme. I really like the theme of it. I do like that thing with, like, the people, voting, and you might know who some of them are and other people don't. Like that a lot. I like that even though when you do attack somebody, it doesn't, like, they get something out of it. It's not maybe what they wanted, of course, but at least it's not, completely awful. But, there's so much variety because each your room layouts are different every time. There's 2 sides to them, like the one side's more complicated. Even like the mages that you draft, there's an opposite side to them that we just didn't mess with that are even, have more complicated rules. And the variety possible in this game is bonkers. Like, it's insane and really impressive. And even if you just kept all your settings, whatever you want to call it, the same, you'd still not have the exact same experience twice, I don't think, because so many different spells and whatnot can come out, and supporters and all of that. It's just going to be different every time. And so, with all that being said, I am going to give this a 9. I really, really super like it a lot. I agree, we have a problem where the people that we typically play with wouldn't be into this, or they would be like such savages in this game. Then I think it'd be maybe a little too much for me, but that's, whatever. We just need better friends. I'm kidding. No, but that is a thing. But and I agree that it probably is it shines more at that higher player count. But honestly, I would love it at the 2-player count. Like, I think it's a lot of fun, and it does take a lot of time. But I feel like it's like 5 rounds. You know what I mean? And it's like broken up into those 5 chunks. It almost like, it feels to me like it's going by pretty quick, even though it technically isn't, I guess. Because it's like, oh, well, that round didn't take that long, and we just have another one. And I don't know. It's broken up in such a way that it just somehow just works for me and sails right along. So, yeah, I got to give it a 9. I think if we had, the perfect setup and people to play this with and whatnot, maybe it'd boost up higher for me. It's just not the situation we're in. But yeah, 9. So it's pretty good. That's where we're at. A 9 and a 7 for Argent the Consortium from level 99. Have you played this? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Let us know in the comments what you think, or if you're interested in playing it. If you have any questions about it, I will try to answer them, so feel free to ask. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit like and subscribe, and click the little bell icon so you can know about the next time I put out a video. Otherwise, look forward to see you all around the table again at All Games New and Old.
Bye. Hi everyone, we now have a merch store, so help out the channel and check it out.
Yeah, all these games and the equipment and everything we do and costumes cost a lot of money. So Anything you can do to help us out if you love our content would be really appreciated. We have t-shirts in tons of different colors and styles.
We have sweatshirts in a few different styles.
We have lots of stuff you can drink out of, like coffee mugs, pint glasses.
We also have coffee tumblers and water balls and a few other things.
Right. So,
The following announcement has been paid for by AGNO.
hey yo, check it out. Brand new shirt. It's not just black, it's black and white. Get one today. You can get it with or without, for everyone on the back. You want something to drink? Is it Thirsty Thursday? That's what that means, right? We got something for your morning. Check that out. We got something for your day. And you know we got something for your night. Get your drink on with that. Get a little cold outside? Check out this premium hoodie. Damn, that looks good. You want to look good? You need this hoodie. What's that? You want a little color? Don't worry. AGNO has got you covered. You don't like purple and red? Don't worry. There's plenty more. Just check the store. All these clothes, not too big, not too small, just too sweet. Don't forget, All Games New and Old is for everyone.
The preceding announcement was paid for by AGNO.
So yeah, that's how you can get pretty much any Kickstarter at the All-In Pledge level for free. So when you saved all that money, make sure you go to our merch store, spend some of that saved money to help us out. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye. I'm not going to go over ever. What do they call it? I'll be right back, Hannah. Okay. So, you really only yep. You make it.
I swear.
Oh, no.
Oh God, I did not know. I did not see that.
It falls slowly. That works for you. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, there's women that I think are clearly supposed to meant to be attractive women. And like I said, they can be wearing kind of tight clothes, but nothing actually out of the realm of what you could see in an office. It's fantasy theme. You know what I mean? Like, it's... Some of it... Okay, let me start that again. Thanks for not sneezing that time. Well, because the game is a school of magic. I mean, because Harry Potter goes to a school of magic, and so, like, I figure if we connect the two, because the school of magic here... Sorry, future me, when I'm listening to that, probably made words got too late. That's okay, David, you're cool. Thanks, man. If you enjoyed that video, you might also like this one.
Or this one.
If you like any of our videos, what you should do is click this little button to subscribe so you'll know about the next time we put out a video.
We'll see you around the table.
Bye.
Bye.